Yeah, I think this is an interesting time where even the professionals right now, we're having conversations about this, every day, and we're trying to find different ways. So remember that we don't have all the answers either at the moment, and we're
Hmm.
working on it. So don't
Hmm.
feel bad that you don't have any of the answers possibly. And the best rule of thumb right now is not to trust anything. If it's your brother messaging you, verify, call your brother and make sure it's like, hey, you sent me this email. This is a Venmo request or a bank request, whatever it might be. Like, have that conversation. Don't just blindly trust anything right now,
Right.
because we're all having trouble knowing whether or not something is real because AI has gotten that good. And in the wrong hands, it's gotten real good for bad reasons. In the good
Right.
hands, we're working on combating that.
Right.
So don't trust anything if you didn't know what it was, where it came from. And then, yeah, just start reading a little bit more,
Hmm.
maybe watch, take a little bit of time and watch a few things. And
Hmm.
you're bound to ask questions. And I
Yeah.
think the best thing that any cybersecurity individual wants is more questions, honestly, because then
Okay.
that shows you're
Yes.
engaged.
Yes. Hello and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety. Hello and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show. I am your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety, and I am here with a wonderful guest today, Ryan Drumheller. Ryan is a 20-year CIO and business consultant that helps IT leaders and is shaping the next crop of IT leaders. And he is unique. He is a unicorn among CIOs in that he is an extroverted, people first IT leader. And he's an early AI adopter and advocate, helping companies get ready to adopt AI and do it securely. So he's seen it all around cybersecurity and what can go wrong, and AI and what can go wrong. And he's also the host of the Decline Invite podcast. Is that a great name or what? And that's on everything business and IT related. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Wow, thanks for that wonderful introduction, Jocelyn. It's great to be here and it's great to virtually meet you. I'm
You
looking
too.
forward to this.
This is great. Well, and I always love starting every conversation here. What's the reason you got into technology and security and AI in the first place? We all have something that drives us, and most of us have a personal story or something that's close to home for us. What's yours?
Yeah, I'm an interesting individual, as in that I'm a very early adopter to everything I can get my hands on.
Hmm.
Probably some of the business's worst nightmares in some regards, but somebody needs to test this stuff out before we launch it into a business
Hmm.
scale, right?
Hmm.
So I'm always trying to get my hands on something personally so I can kind of see what I can do with it, get ideas, start getting my creativity going. If I'm leading a
Hmm.
team at that time, get their perspective and ideas and seeing what we can do to launch it,
Hmm.
in the business. See, they're hiring us for a reason. We need to be creative and give them ideas,
Right.
and maybe we can cut down on, uh, you know, hours, and we can cut down on wasted time, and we can
Hmm.
scale that into a monetary gain. That's my goal, at least.
Right. Well, that's so important. And all of us touch business, and many of us work in businesses, whether they're the large corporations or the majority of where all Americans work and people around the globe work, which is in small and mid-sized companies. And cybersecurity and digital safety is such a big issue, and especially around AI implementation at all of these that affects us as the consumers and clients and customers of all these organizations. What do you think are some of the things you're seeing that are really making safety difficult right now for us as customers and consumers of the companies that you see that are coming to you with the problems that are so common?
Yeah, and some of these aren't going to be shocking, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is training. It's the classic thing that sometimes cybersecurity gets overlooked. We send out the phishing test, no problem, but we don't train further on that. We don't have conversations around, what's happening in this space, why something might be going on, what to actually do if you see it, like
Right.
educating your employees.
Right.
I always have a saying in cybersecurity that your employees are your greatest and worst assets,
That's
because
true.
if you
Mhm.
don't train them, then they're probably going to create problems. But if you train them, educate them, give them something meaningful to remember, not just here's a PowerPoint, but come
Right.
in, talk, be animated, whatever your user base, your employee base gravitates towards, give them
Right.
that.
Well, and isn't that also because it starts at home? I mean, the people who are clicking on the phishing emails at work are also the ones who are clicking on the phishing emails at home that is then downloading malware to their computers or phones and or sending, wiring money, being scammed. And, there are, I mean, I'm among my cybersecurity circle, I'm seeing all these almost near misses in scams that are almost getting by cybersecurity people, and some that are for the ones who really admit it. I almost clicked on something the other day going, oh, this looked real. This really looked real. So it's
Yeah.
getting, AI is making all of the fakes look real, right? And as I like to say, right, it makes, bad hackers good, good hackers great, and great hackers almost unstoppable. So what do you think we can learn from this phishing thing? And what are you seeing around the numbers? I mean, there's some people who take the trainings, whether they're personal or inside the organizations, and are learning. And then and let's face it, even the best trained, if you're under pressure and you're getting 250 emails a day and you're late for a meeting or your boss wants something or you're at home and the kids are crying and the dog's barking, whatever it is, it's much easier to click on the wrong thing. So what are you
Yes.
seeing in a trend that we should be aware of, and what do you think people should do to not not become a victim?
Yeah, some of the things you pointed out are very real. Like I've been having a lot of real conversations, as in we can't tell if this is actually a real person, a real photo, a real email.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to the point of if you don't know who that email is, I'd rather default to just don't interact with it
Mm-hmm.
and then ask somebody, like if you're working in a business, then yeah, go ask your IT and cybersecurity teams if you have, those options to ask. On
Right.
a personal basis, I've just gotten to the point where I entirely see what you're seeing. My
Mm-hmm.
box gets flooded and I'm like, I can already tell that this isn't like because I didn't order anything or whatever.
Right.
That's
Right.
not that's not meant for me. This is
Yeah.
probably a scam. And kind of using a little bit of common sense. If you don't know, don't click. That's
Okay,
personally.
that's the pull quote of the day, everybody. If you don't know, don't click. I love that. I'm going to borrow that, Ryan. That's great.
Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I look at things at a practical, basis, right? I do research if I'm going to buy something. I try to interact with a company. I might be a little bit over the top of a consumer in that regard, but when it comes to your email and everything else, right? You probably heard, rotate your passwords and
Mm-hmm.
make sure you have a password management system, maybe. Don't use the same thing across all of it. I mean, those are all good
Right.
examples, but it kind of just goes back to if you don't know what that is, don't
Right.
click on it, delete it, move on. And if it's truly something important, they're probably going to
Mhm.
follow up with you.
Right.
I wouldn't even think twice on it.
Yeah, the one that I've seen almost getting through and that I almost clicked on myself, not to pay or anything, but to look at it, which, again, everybody, when you open an email, you could be signaling that you're live on the other end of it's like
Right,
picking up the phone, even if you don't say anything. It's like somebody picked up, so it's a live line. So you want to be careful about what signals you're sending, even when you're sending digital signals, even if you're not saying anything, right? So you want to be careful of that. But the one that gets through is this charge, so this is your renewal is charging, and then they put an amount somewhere between 329 and 499, just enough for most people to go, wait, what? What is this? And especially if it looks legitimate. And I've seen multiples because people send me things all the time. And by the way, everybody out there, if you want to send me your example, that would be great. Services at smarteronlinesafety.com, because we get all of these examples and they really look like they're from the Geek Squad, except that when you hover over the email, it's from a Gmail address instead of Best Buy, or something like this. But it's saying that you're getting a renewal for something. And for people who did buy from the something from Best Buy and had the Geek Squad install it, and then they're getting a renewal. I mean, it's so close to what they've really done that they think, okay, oh, this, what is this? And they click on it, and then that's when all the problems start to happen with the malware downloads and the, and the links to click to cancel this, but you're actually clicking through and they're taking things from you, whether it's your data or your credit card information or, getting in so they can take over a session, right? I mean, we should talk about account takeover for a minute too while you're on here because I'm seeing increasing. I don't know if you're seeing that on your side too, but account takeovers from session cookies being from people who've closed windows and not logged out. That's a real thing right now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm an individual with ADHD. I can tell you I absolutely have tabs open. I know exactly what you're describing. I'm just like any other person when I go, I don't know when the last time this was. It's probably time to do.
Mhm.
But another point that I think I'd raise that I think has been highlighted and magnified with AI because I'm starting to look into this now. I don't have a lot of data on it, but my
Mhm.
phone goes off the hook right now with spam
Mhm.
calls,
Yeah.
and I'm very curious what the angle is with that. So I'd say I
Mhm.
think they're starting to evolve, which is a
Yes.
scary thought.
Yes.
Um, but just like with that, I don't answer it. I go,
Mhm.
luckily, my phone identifies it. I've got something on there. I don't answer it. And it's a lot of things about your loan processing, right? So they're trying to get you on that regard as well, as much
Mhm.
as they're trying to get you to click there. And I'm wondering what they're actually getting through,
Mhm.
or trying to get through, I should say, on
Mhm.
my particular mobile device at this point. So it
Mhm.
is expanding and enhancing with AI for the bad reasons at that point.
Right. Well, and some of the things that I'm seeing on the cybersecurity debriefs that I was just on is the rise in uh, so somebody like me and you that have podcasts, there's enough voice of us out there that,
Mhm.
you know, we're not the ones who are going to protect ourselves by not answering the phone just so they can get our voice. But sometimes they're calling because they can get your voice because voice is being used for, unfortunately, I'm seeing an increase in cyber criminals using voice cloning to get through to get through on voice identification systems. At the same time, I'm seeing banks and institutions implementing voice ID. Most of the people in cybersecurity that I know will not do a voice ID because they know how to hack it. And if you know how to hack it, you don't want to let anybody else hack it. And I'm not faulting a lot of these institutions, but like they decided to buy this 5 years ago. They did a sandbox and then they put it in. And about the time they're rolling it out is, of course, when the hackers have figured out how to get around it. And so a lot cybersecurity people, I have yet to meet one. If you are one, you feel free to chime in and let me know and comment. But most cybersecurity people will not do voice identification for that
I
reason.
think that's super smart,
Yeah. And
especially
so they're
now.
calling you to get your voice print. And if they go into your voicemail and you've left your own voicemail, they can get your voice print. So it's game over for you and me because we have podcasts and we have hundreds of hours of us on the internet. But for the average person who doesn't, maybe you have photos of you on Facebook and stuff, but you don't post videos publicly, so they don't know what your voice sounds like. They can call to get your voice. So we're seeing a big uptick in that on the cybersecurity side.
Yeah, and in addition, I think there's a good point too, is, photos and video are getting so real that the ability to make those kind of photos and videos with our likeness,
Right.
it it's an interesting time, yeah, to how to combat all of that. I think, like you said, the best thing is for me, I don't have my voice on my voicemail, but it doesn't matter because you can get my voice everywhere
Right.
now.
However, we are making them work a little harder for it. There we go. We're
Trying.
not just handing it over to them in their system. If you want it, and you're going to have to come find it. So, at least we've got a little, we don't have a gate, but we have a little step between us and the
Rule cybersecurity, right? How many fences can I make them climb? Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, and you talked about being a continual learner. That's obviously the case. You hold two master's degrees, so you got what, 3 degrees in total. And if I am I correct, you're just shy of 200 certifications.
Yeah, I'm just shy of that, and
So
I'm
you're also in the Guinness
actively.
Book of World Records, probably.
Well, I mentor a lot of people and say maybe don't be crazy and do what I did.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm also researching right now doctorates programs. So yeah, I'm
Very
pretty
good.
crazy with
Very
education,
good.
and I'm always trying to stay active. Try to be knowledgeable.
Did you set out to try to get that many certifications, or were you just there to learn, and through the course of learning, you collected certifications like lint?
Yeah, yeah. I collected every stone that you could find.
There you go.
No,
Mhm.
I did not set out to collect
Okay.
that many. I actually ran an initiative with a small team once where the entire team gained 150 in a year.
Okay.
And we did a lot of the same ones right in that count. But
Hmm.
I had a rule I set for myself. If I was going to learn something, I was going to go ahead and just do the test and prove that I at least knew it from that
Right.
baseline and
Right.
then try to find a project that I could tie it to along the way. That was the important thing. Just because I knew it, it's only half the battle. Like being able to actively use it and try to do something with it was important.
Well, you
And
bring up
and
a
the,
really good point because
yeah,
academic knowledge is something you can talk about. Like I know you love to
yeah,
golf and stuff too, so you can talk about it around around the golf tee or in the bar or the Starbucks or while you're
yeah,
waiting for a meeting to start. But you don't. It's kind of like reading about how to ride a bike is not going to make you a great cyclist, right? You got to get on the darn thing and ride it. So I mean, a big part of what you do then is to actually take that academic learning and apply it. And I think there's a real strong lesson here for everybody listening around not just listening to online safety advice, but applying it, putting your hands on the keyboards or on your phone to do it. Because if you don't do it when you're hearing it and you put it off, A, you're probably going to forget what it is because most people forget 90% of what they learn if they don't apply it within 24 hours. And secondly, if you have any fear about doing it, it's only going to increase, not go away, right? So what
yes.
advice? So you are the definitive, leaderboard champion here on certifications and degrees and all. So what advice do you have for people who are like, I know I need to take some actions to be safer, but I'm kind of scared of it, or I'm not sure what to do. But like, you're telling them what to do. How should they apply it and why should they apply it so that they remember?
Yeah, you don't even have to get a certification or a degree or anything like that if that's not your forte, right? You just want to get a little educated, you want to get a little bit better in this space, you're a consumer and you want to know how to be a little bit safer. The first thing is to read. The next thing is ask questions, find somebody, reach out to people like me, across, social
Right.
media if you find people like that or people in your local neighborhoods or, even your own businesses that you work in, ask them questions. And then try to apply some of those things, right? Like,
Mhm.
what are good practices that I should try to do? Go home and try to apply some of those, right?
Mhm.
I've taken my parents are a great example. They are non-IT anything. They didn't
Mhm.
do those professions, but they use password management now.
That's
They
great.
don't write anything in anywhere where I can grab it and take it.
Mhm.
They only allow me as an entry point into their PCs to remotely help them. They
Mhm.
know because we're talking on the phone when we're doing it. Those kind of situations, right? I've taken them from the ability of barely able to operate a phone to now they can actually do things on a PC and be able to order off Amazon and be
Right.
safe about
Right. Well, I'm so glad you said that because we mention password managers a lot here on Smarter Online Safety. I just hit 50 episodes, okay? And I think we've said it 25 plus times about password managers between me and our guests talking about them. For people who still, and yet the statistics still show that only 37% of Americans use a password manager. So please, how would you implore people? What have you done to help the people like your parents who are loath to do it on their own? And that not everybody has a son who's a brilliant, CIO and IT person. So maybe they can find a friend or something. But what advice do you have for people about not only why to do it, but how to do it? Because that's where people are getting stuck.
Yeah, that's I would agree. That's a tougher question if you don't have somebody that can be readily available to help you.
Hmm.
I think what I would do as somebody who's proactive about trying to learn about something that I don't have somebody in. I go and I just try to watch as many videos as I can, like a walkthrough maybe of how to
Hmm.
set something up. I think that's maybe some of the bigger challenges for somebody who's not really technical or not sure how to actually navigate that space is, well, if you
Right,
watch a little video of how to actually do it and go, oh, well, that only took like 5 or 10 minutes.
right.
Okay, well, I could do 5 or 10 minutes and then get it there. I think it's daunting to set up a password management program and then take all of your passwords from everywhere and then get it back into there.
Hmm.
And I don't have great advice for that. That's just, you
Well,
need to do a little bit over time, over time, over time, get it into there, and then stop saving them in your browsers. Stop
right.
writing them down, in
Yeah,
places, and make them all challenging things where at least in the password manager you can just copy and paste, or
right.
sometimes they have the plugins of the browser that you can just click and get into it. So it'll make your life easier, but
Hmm.
also safer.
I love that. One of the things that I like to say with seniors, because they're such an important generation, they've given us so much and done so much for our whole community, and we deserve to pay them back with kindness and help. But one of the things I'll say to the men and the women, depending on which way they lean, but like, did you ever watch This Old House, which was a very popular home improvement show? And but you compare that to reading the Reader's Digest, home improvement how-to book. What would you rather do? Oh, well, they'd rather watch it. I do the same with cooking. Would you rather watch Martha Stewart, or back in the day, Julia Child prepare this, or would you rather read cookbook? And of course, you have to have the recipe in front of you. I get that, but
Yeah.
they'd rather watch because if we watch somebody do it, we do it. And I say, well, if you could do that, then wouldn't you rather watch this YouTube video on how to do it and then follow it? Because I think a lot of people who are nervous about technology also think YouTube is this newfangled thing, but it's really Google for videos.
Yeah,
And
it
and
really
and not
is.
everybody who puts a video on YouTube is an expert. So I've seen a couple things that aren't maybe the best advice. I haven't seen anything actually horrible because they usually comments roll in and the wisdom of crowds takes it takes it down pretty quick. But it is safe to say that, so when I make that analogy between This Old House and Julia Child or Martha Stewart and the cookbook or the repair book that you have to read, everybody gets it. It would be so much easier to just watch this and then they'll watch the YouTube video and then you're like, okay, then you can do it. And if they're not comfortable doing it, sometimes you want to watch it two or three times. And then if they're not comfortable, you could maybe get somebody you do trust, your age who's a tech innovator or tech savvy, or you have a family member, or a grandchild or something. But I think that it's really important when technology changes so much that we don't just look down on people who don't get it, but realize they have a different brain orientation, and we need to help them along.
I
So
completely agree. It's how I always led my teams is,
mm,
tech is an enabler to
yeah,
in the business, but even in my personal life, yeah, absolutely. Not everybody works in tech. I
right,
just happen to work in tech, so if I can trade my knowledge on something, maybe they have great knowledge to trade back.
right,
And if you look at it kind of like an asset trade or a barter system, even maybe you
right.
make somebody a batch of cookies or a pie or something in return to setting up your password management program.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yes. I've worked with tech teams for the past 30 years, and food goes a long way with everybody.
It
You can get
does.
anybody to a meeting if you offer pizza. There you go.
Man,
So one of the things we do here is really break things down into plain English, which you're doing so great. So, if you were advising a family member who's non-technical, or like I always say, if your aunt or uncle were sitting at the table, at the table on Saturday or Sunday afternoon, what advice would you have for them about how to stay safe in these times with all this AI coming at them, with all these emails coming into their box, with all these phone calls coming into their home, and that they don't want to cut themselves off from the world because they have friends calling and they have actual purchases where they're getting legitimate emails. What should they do?
yeah, I think this is an interesting time where even the professionals right now, we're having conversations about this, every day, and we're trying to find different ways. So remember that we don't have all the answers either at the moment, and we're
Hmm.
working on it. So don't
Hmm.
feel bad that you don't have any of the answers possibly. And the best rule of thumb right now is not to trust anything. If it's your brother messaging you, verify, call your brother and make sure it's like, hey, you sent me this email. This is a Venmo request or a bank request, whatever it might be, like have that conversation. Don't just blindly trust anything right now
Right.
because we're all having trouble knowing whether or not something is real because AI has gotten that good. And in the wrong hands, it's gotten real good for bad reasons. In the good
Right.
hands, we're working on combating that.
Right.
So don't trust anything if you didn't know what it was, where it came from. And then, yeah, just start reading a little bit more,
Hmm.
maybe watch, take a little bit of time and watch a few things. And you're
Hmm.
bound to ask questions. And I
Right.
think the best thing that any cybersecurity individual wants is more questions, honestly, because then
Okay.
that shows you're
Yes.
engaged.
Yes. No, that's great. And try to find, and if you don't understand, because those of us in cyber, like I'm very careful here if we use an acronym, try to break it down and stuff, but cybersecurity people will geek out. There are more letters in a 5-minute cybersecurity meeting than there are in a can of alphabet soup. So you've got to ask questions. Just say, wait, what do you, I don't understand what that means. Because and so people will be very helpful, but they forget that what they don't know. They don't even realize they're speaking tech jargon. But most, I mean, some, with any population, okay, so maybe somebody's going to be a little bit of a jerk, but it's very rare. Most people really want to be helpful. And if you say, I'm really confused by this, could you explain that to me? I don't know what that means. Uh, every smart person on the planet has whole areas they know nothing about. And so it's not a stupid question, it's an uninformed question, right? So go ahead and ask it.
Oh, and I say, even being from, the background that I have right now, is feel free to explain it to me like I'm a toddler or a 5-year-old or
Mhm.
something. And I say that now, so don't be
Yeah,
afraid to say it,
that's great.
at all. And
Uh-huh.
you go, okay, we know where we're coming from. We'll make
Hmm.
sure that we translate that so that you
Hmm.
can try to understand it.
Okay, that's great. And for people who feel like, oh my gosh, not trust anything, that sounds like I'm like in the military or the police force or something. I don't want to live like that. We bring that up from time to time. It doesn't have to be that bad, right? But what advice would you have for them about how to see it so they're not feeling like it's just exhausting them?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we're probably all going to stumble into something and miss something, and it's probably going to happen, and it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Hmm.
If that happens, there are services, there are people out there, there are things that will help.
Right,
You don't have to live your life in complete fear, and I'm never getting on the internet. I'm never opening my email ever again.
right.
Don't do that. We all still live the email life. We still
Hmm.
get online every single day.
Right.
So live your life, but just live it a little bit more educated, more aware, a little bit,
Hmm.
question maybe something and go, well, I'm not sure what that is. Okay, well, that goes in the bucket of don't blindly trust then. And then move about your day of, well, these I know for sure. I got on here to look for this particular email. Awesome.
Hmm.
Go about that world and that life, and over time you'll just get better and more
Hmm.
educated, and you'll get stronger
Right.
as a consumer that's aware of cybersecurity issues and
Hmm.
threats and all the bad that comes with that.
Right. There was a time when deadbolts were new, and people had to learn how to stick the key in the right direction, and they occasionally locked themselves out, and they did things as it was a new technology, believe it or not. We don't think of it today, but there was a time when that was new and seemed a little uncomfortable, a little unfamiliar, and we've learned to deal with it. And and to your point, I think that is such a great. It's not that you have to become an untrusting person, but you need to not blindly trust anything in your inbox or at your doorstep any more than you would a stranger walking up to your front door.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to
Hmm.
question, hi, what are you here for? And
Hmm.
maybe that's the approach that you take with your inbox, your online browsing, and like we talked about earlier, maybe close out some of those tabs, restart that PC once in a while,
Hmm.
run some scans. Uh, and if you don't know how to do all of that, that's back to that conversation of a little bit at a time, like
Right.
riding a bike, as we talked
Hmm.
about earlier.
Right. And to your point, you had brought up some of the, we talk about the basic hygiene on the show a lot, but the point of not using one password on everything is inevitably it's going to get breached. And if it
Yeah,
is, to your point, the bad guys only be able to access that one account instead of all 150. That's why it's important, right? So you're gonna, even if you get harmed in some way, you're creating a small attack surface, as we call it, a small space, rather than your whole life being exposed.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that might save you, at
Yeah.
the end of the day. So the more that you
Oh,
can, perfect.
that is so
But
great.
over time, if that's what it takes.
That is so great. Now we have a lot of listeners listening in listening mode on all the podcast platforms, 12 of them that we are on. And then we have some people watching on video. And the ones watching on video can see Stellar Horn behind you, which is your company, and the unicorn, of which you're a unicorn, being the extroverted people first CIO leader that you are. Where, for people who want to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to find you? And then please tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn for those that have LinkedIn business accounts. You can find all kinds of things I post on there, reach out, have conversations with me. I love having conversations about anything that is in the IT and business space or just general questions to help others.
Mhm.
Additionally, yep, stellarhorn.com is my business website. I'm actively always putting new things on there, creating tools to help other individuals or businesses that are out there. My services, all of my videos across everything I've ever been on. You can learn anything about me on there. Yeah, and then additionally, I do the Decline Invite pod, or excuse me, the Decline Invite podcast that I have conversations like this and more
Mm,
across business and IT, AI,
right.
anything that we're having challenges in that space. So if this at all interests you, we have all kinds of conversations on there with many great guests who are smart across other industries
Right.
that they're in as well. So we'd love to have you on there taking a listen.
That is so great. We've got so many business leaders and people in business list and entrepreneurs listening. So have a listen. Ryan is great and very generous with the information, as you can see. So Ryan Drumheller, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and it's been a wonderful time.
That's great. So take that advice, take those wonderful pull quotes, and until next time, stay safe out there.